Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon.
Would you tell the members of the arbitration panel, the largest ever assembled in South Carolina, your name, please?
Sally Service.
Okay. And Sally, you understand these people are really here to help you today?
Yes.
Because you filed a complaint, correct?
I filed a complaint. Yes, I did.
And how long have you been practicing real estate, Sally?
For over 10 years, approximately.
And do you hold any special designations or qualifications?
Absolutely. I have an accredited buyer's representation, ABR. It's a special designation where I represent buyers.
In order to get that designation, you had to go through a couple of days of courses. You had to pass an exam.
I sure did.
So you're pretty well trained and experienced in representing buyers.
Absolutely.
Tell us how you first came to meet the Relos.
Well, Jan and Steve Relo contacted me about moving to our beautiful city by telephone, so I made arrangements with them to meet at my office.
You essentially dropped everything to go meet with them?
Yes, I did.
And when you first met with them at your office, tell us a little bit about what you talked about. Did you take them through the buying process? Tell us how that went.
We did. We went through the buying process at length. 3 hours we discussed the buying process, and I tried to educate them entirely. At the end of the meeting, they agreed to sign a 180-day extension, or it's an exclusive right buyer's agency agreement form with me.
Sally, if I could, does this look like a copy of your agreement?
This is the actual agreement.
And it has both your signature on it and their signatures?
It has executed signatures.
Perfect. I'm going to have that marked as an exhibit, if we could, for the arbitration panel. Did they understand, based on what you saw, that they were signing an exclusive buyer representation agreement with you?
It's my perception that they did understand completely. We took the time needed to go through the form, and I answered questions that they might have. So I felt very confident at that point that they understood exactly what they were saying.
And they knew they were hiring you?
They knew they were hiring.
To represent them in buying a home? Yes. So after they had signed the agreement, you spent all this time with them at your office, did you take them out and show them some homes? Did we ever?
First, I prearranged a lot of the showings, and we spent the next 3 days, well, actually Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, and we toured 4 total homes, 24 homes.
I'm just curious, that's a lot of driving around.
Yes, it is. It was an enjoyable time, though, because I was representing them as a professional, as their buyer's agent.
Your gas money, your time, your expenses in trying to help these folks, right?
That is correct, and yes.
And when you were out looking at homes, did they ask you about a home that was listed for $1.2 million?
They did indeed. We drove past the property and they noticed it. They said the home was out of their price range, but I did agree to go ahead and accommodate them and let them tour that home. Yes, we did view that home that day.
That was the same home they ended up buying?
Yes, it is.
So I want to just make sure we're clear about this. You were the agent who took them to this home in the first place.
Yes, I am. I am the agent. I also provided them the information from the multiple listing service, the fact sheet.
Oh, so you not only took them in the home, you gave them some information about the home from MLS.
I sure did.
Perfect. And what did they tell you after they had looked at all of these homes and had looked at this $1.2 million home?
Well, certainly after 3 days of viewing homes, they were exhausted and they had a lot of things going on in their mind with the different type homes. And they wanted to return back to Chicago to kind of think things through. And I was under the impression that we would stay in touch. And certainly, they had their buyer's agency agreement that they had signed with me. So,
when they returned to Chicago, did you try and contact them?
Multiple times. I'm very good. I've been in this business, 10 years. And I'm a very good person about following up. I sent them multiple emails, tried to contact them by phone. I kept a phone log, by the way.
I was impressed by that. You had given me all of your phone logs that show all the times and failed attempts to contact him. You also printed out all of the emails. Would you take a look at that? Tell me if that looks like your phone log and all of the emails that you sent these folks?
Yes. This is the phone log. They're all noted. And all the emails I printed out, and this is the actual copy.
Perfect. We'd like to have all of this marked, too, as an exhibit, if we could, Mr. Gallagher. Thank you. I'm curious. To all those phone calls and all those emails, response from them?
No response.
No response?
No response. However, I was trying to do my job. I had them under a buyer's agency agreement, and it's the thing. I would want to be treated, if I were the buyer, that someone would continue to contact me, irregardless, until I get an answer as to what's going on with it.
And you tried to do that several times?
Consistently, and the records will show that.
Did they ever, at any point, tell you they wanted to cancel their agreement?
No. I never heard from them. They never contacted me asking to be withdraw from the agreement.
So they never called and said they wanted to cancel it, didn't want to withdraw from it?
No, none whatsoever.
Ever tell you they didn't want you to represent them?
No, never told me that.
Curious. Were you ever contacted by him?
Barney Service?
Barney Bargain, yeah.
Barney. Never. Not one time did we have communication.
Did the Relos tell you at any point that they had decided to purchase this $1.2 million house directly from him as the listing agent?
Oh, no, not prior to our encounter, afterwards.
How'd you find out that they decided to purchase that home, or that they had purchased that home?
I went to Starbucks and ran into Miss Relo, and she was so excited and told me the story that she had already closed on the property.
And just so the arbitration panel is clear, I have one final document for you. If you would take a look at this, I believe this is a copy of the HUD-1 closing statement on that $1.2 million purchase.
This is a copy. Actually.
And all of those fees at the top went to who?
Barney. They went to Barney. And I'm just very upset about this because we're talking, I knew.
I understand. It's a hard thing to go through.
I did my job. I really did my job. And I was just devastated because they were under a buyer's agent agreement when this closing statement was signed.
That closing statement is dated within the 180-day period of your buyer rep agreement?
Yes, it is.
I can't think of anything else I could possibly ask her. Do you have any questions for this witness, Mr. Gallagher? We'd like to have that closing statement marked as an exhibit as well. Questions of the witness, Bill? Do you have any questions for her?
You tried to follow up with your clients?
Yes, consistently.
And they didn't call you back?
No, they did not call me back.
Okay.
What, don't you think there's something wrong if people don't call you back?
Well, there could be many things that occur. Life is ever changing.
So they didn't call you back?
They could have been in a car accident.
Is that a red flag? Is that a red flag they didn't call you back?
Not in my business. I'm a professional.
Oh, you're professional.
And I'm a professional. And I will continue to follow up with someone under an agency agreement with our firm.
Let me ask you another question, because I know it's very emotional because Barney got the money. Ask you this question. As a real estate professional, when somebody don't call you back, is that a red flag?
No, not to me.
If they don't call you back?
No.
How many times did you try calling them?
Oh, it's in the log. I don't know. Probably 1,400.
And no call back?
No.
No email back?
No response.
No response back?
No response. But I think that we should, may I say something?
Yes, you go right ahead.
I think we should look at the HUD.
Look at the
Perhaps they had
HUD?
already closed on the closing statement. And I was still trying to contact them.
But what did you do?
And maybe they were moving.
Did you write the offer? Did you write the offer?
I did not write the offer.
Did you negotiate the offer?
I procured
Did you
the
negotiate
offer.
the offer?
I was the leading reason for that sale.
You mean to tell me you're wanting to get some money and you basically didn't even write the offer?
I did not write the offer, but I had them under a buyer's agency agreement.
Well, let me
during the
just
time they
tell you,
purchased
you didn't have them ready, willing, and able. We teach this in real estate school,
Well-
that you earn a commission when they're ready, willing, and able.
Well,
I'm sorry, Mr. Gallagher, could you not yell at my client,
Okay, I will
please?
calm down. I will calm down. They were not ready, willing, and able with you, were they?
They were cash buyers.
They're not ready, willing, and what?
Able in your terms.
In my terms, what's your language?
Well, my language is they were willing and able, and I should have
But
been
they weren't willing to
contacted.
write an offer.
Well, they were still willing to sign their buyer's agency agreement with me.
Well, that's at the beginning.
At the beginning is true.
And so therefore, you did not write the offer.
I did not write
You
the
did not
offer,
negotiate
but
the offer. You did not negotiate the
brought
offer.
them to this beautiful
You did not
city.
negotiate the repairs. You did not help with the financing. You didn't help with the termite level. You did not help with the survey.
You want a napkin?
I'm just saying, you didn't bring them ready, willing, and what? Hey, what are you doing to earn a commission, girl?
I earned my commission as a professional.
As a what?
Professional realtor.
As because.
I am entitled to the commission on this sale.
Because.
They were my clients.
And you had a
under
what?
A buyer's agency agreement.
But then they did not want to communicate with ye.
That's your
Can
perception.
you make anybody buy from you who don't want to call you back?
If they had not wanted to communicate with me, they could have contacted me
But they didn't.
and asked to be released.
They didn't. Did you explain that to them, being
Then
released?
That's up to the court to decide.
Oh, no.
Yes.
We're not in the court. We're here at
well,
Professional Standards
we're
hearing.
going to court.
Okay, Lynn, I just need to let you know that they were not ready, willing, and able when she worked with them.
I understand,
No more
Mr. Gallagher,
questions.
but you're a lawyer and you should recognize a legally enforceable contract when you see it. Are you okay?
Yes.
Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much.
Thank you so much.
Give her a round of applause. By the way, I think the Academy Awards are coming up. We're going to nominate you. What do you think? Key facts that favor one side or the other. Who's got one? Let's start with her. What's working in her favor? Yes. They're bound to her. She has a written agreement. Home purchase within the time frame. Good. Thank you. Yes. She's got records. How many of you that have sat in mediations, arbitration hearings, professional standards committees would have loved for at least one of the agents in the transaction to have kept part of the records? I mean, it amazes me. It's something I know Bill preaches in continuing education. I do as well all the time. I mean, the amount of contact that people are having today, whether it be text messages, social media messages, emails, and a lot of it is not ever being kept in any organized form, because her saying, you understand, without those records, her testimony starts to look like, well, yeah, I called them. How many times? Lots. When? I don't remember exactly when, but it was lots. I mean, that is nowhere nearly as compelling as being able to say, I called them 3 times on February 1st, twice on February 3rd, called them twice more on. So those records are critical. Thank you for that. Yes?
But that's a pro and a con view. Because the pro is she has great records. She shows she's trying to follow up. She shows she's trying to make contact. But it also shows that the client obviously did not want to work with her further for whatever reason. Though they were bound with her, though that they had spent hours with her and appreciated her, they did not follow through for some reason. It could be construed as infidelity.
Interesting. You used a word that gets used all the time in professional standards hearings, and particularly in procuring cause cases, this issue of abandonment. I think that's kind of what Bill was maybe alluding to. This whole issue of abandonment. Can a client abandon a realtor, or does the realtor abandon the client? We'll have to figure that out more as we go. It's a great question and comment. Yes? Oh, you think we're going to have to get some testimony to him about what his conversation with them looked like? I can't wait.
Was there a price on the fire agency?
No
They bought 1.5 million, but they mentioned originally was 500,000. Did they put a limit of? Did they put a price of 500,000 on that fire agency?
Great question. You think that would be important as to whether or not that buyer agency agreement did or didn't cover this particular home based on the price that was put in it. We're going to say for the purposes of today's arbitration, there was no amount in the actual buyer rep agreement, though pretty clear based on the testimony that she thought they were in the 500 or so price range. That's what they told her. They told her that home was out of their price range, and that's all we know at this point. Anything else you'd like to comment on, clarification on? Sandy?
Well, just very quickly, based on the buyer agency agreement and the fact that it appears that there was no break in communication from the agent to the buyers, you might surmise that perhaps she might be due some remuneration at some point.
You think she might be due to some communication with this buyer rep agreement, but you're also concerned as to whether or not there were other breaks in this communication that we may not know about yet.
Yeah.
There's a cliffhanger now. Yes?
Do we have any clarification on which section she checked as regarding her compensation? Did she check that she would be paid through the listing broker, or
We don't know that, but I agree that would be something important to look at. How did she check? What box did she check in terms of her agency representation?
I think it's important that she said she reviewed the agreement and they understood what they were signing.
She actually reviewed the agreement and they understood what they were signing. They must have, because she said she went through it line by line and there were their signatures and hers. Yes, last comment, and then we're going to do another witness.
A lot of emphasis being put on the agency. Arbitration manual gives us guidance that agency in and of itself is not established as your call. What we have established is you did exposure. Perfect. So even though the agency is extremely important, and I think it's a consideration for, I'm not too sure that that consideration of that agency is agreement between her and her client, which may be a separate arbitrational issue. But as far as procuring costs and exposure to closure, I think that what we've got from this, regardless of all the agency talk, is she did expose the property, which a significantly portion of the exposure to closure procuring costs.
Your name is?
Jim.
Jim? I love you, man. What he's trying to tell you is there's some distinction between agency and procuring cause. And they might be two separate issues. Hang on to that thought for a moment. Mr. Galler, may I call my next witness?
You may.
I would call Jan Relo to the stand, please. Hi, Mrs. Relo.
hello?
How are you?
Fine, thanks. How are you?
Good. You want to have a seat for us, please?
Okay.
Mrs. Wheeler, you were the buyer in this transaction. I want to be very clear about something before we ever go another step forward. And that is, do you understand that no one here today is claiming that you as the client did anything wrong?
Well, I hope not. I sure didn't know that there was even a problem here.
Okay. So it's not about you. It has to do with a claim about the realtors involved. So no one's here to chastise you or allege that you did anything wrong as a buyer.
Okay.
With that said, would you tell the arbitration panel your name, please?
I am Jan Relo.
And where did you and your husband live before moving to beautiful city?
We lived in Chicago.
Uh-huh. And why did you decide to move?
Couldn't stand the snow any longer.
Think a lot of people in South Carolina ended up here that way?
Oh, I think so. It's wonderful in South Carolina.
Do you remember working with Sally Service?
I remember she's a pretty good agent.
You didn't have any complaints about her
No.
representation of you, did you?
She did a good job.
Okay. So, fair to say you liked her?
Yes, we liked her very much.
And tell the arbitration panel again how you felt about what she did for you.
Well, I think she did a great job. She spent time showing us a bunch of properties and helping us out. We had no complaint about her.
When you first met her, did she sit down and go through the buyer process with you?
Yes, we talked for a little while. She kind of told us what to expect.
Okay. And she actually had you sign a document that we had earlier, an exclusive buyer representation agreement. Do you remember that?
I kind of remember signing something. I'm not real sure what it was. And
Well, let me hand you that document.
Okay.
This is your signature at the bottom, correct?
Yeah, it looks like it.
And do you remember signing this document?
I remember signing it.
Okay. Did you understand that when you signed that, you were hiring her as your agent?
Really, I leave all that kind of stuff to my husband. I figured he had.
We're going to get
knew
to
what
him.
we were doing. Yeah.
So Sally took you out, spent significant amount of time with the two of you. Is that correct?
Yeah, we spent several days with her.
Okay. Do you remember how many properties you looked at? Do you recall it all?
Good heavens, I don't know. I got so confused. It was a bunch.
And did she take you to a home that was listed by Barney Bargain when you guys were first out with Ms. Service?
Yes, she did.
That was the $1.2 million home you bought.
Yeah, that's what we ultimately bought.
I see. And when you looked at that home with her, what did you tell her at that time in regard to the home?
Well, my husband was not interested in that when he said it was too much, but he'd be happy just to pay for a garage and a kitchen, so he wasn't willing to pay for the rest of the house.
I guess we know who won that argument.
Yeah. Took a while, but I won.
I see. Well, did you inform your real estate agent, Ms. Service, when you decided and changed your mind about buying that home?
Well, last time we talked with her, we really didn't know what we were going to do, and it was a while before we talked. We had not had any communication with her for a while. So when we came back, we just went to the house.
Well, Mrs. Wheeler, with all due respect, she tried to contact you several times when you went back to Chicago, right?
I kind of remember maybe some calls or emails. I don't know. Tom handles all that, so I don't know what he did
I see.
where that was concerned. That was right after we got back, though.
Well, yeah, why didn't you guys respond to her?
Because we weren't ready to make a decision at that time.
I see. Did you ever tell her then that you didn't want her to represent you?
I didn't know we had to.
Did you ever cancel or terminate your agreement with her?
I didn't realize it was an agreement that we had to work with her.
When you decided to come back here and go look at and buy that house, did you try and contact her then?
No, all we were concerned about was going to see the house again, and we ran into Barney, and he told us that he could help us, and
I'm sure he did. Can we talk about that?
sure.
You went to an open house, right? That
Right,
Mr.
right.
Bargain over here was
Well,
holding.
we went to look at the house again, and he happened to be there having an open house at that time.
And he said he could help you.
Yes, he did. He did a good job,
Did he
too.
ask you if you were currently represented by another real estate
yes,
agent?
he did.
He
Yes,
did?
he did.
And what did you and your husband tell him?
Well, we said no, because at that time, we weren't working with anybody when we came back.
Well, I'm sure Mr. Bargain followed up on that and asked you who the name of that person was, didn't he?
No, I don't remember that he did.
Did he ask if you ever signed a written agreement?
I don't remember that he did. I don't think
Did
so.
you tell him that Sally first showed you that house?
No, I didn't know we had to.
Did he ever offer to contact her for you?
Don't think so.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect him to. And you never tried to contact her either.
No, he was handling it. We were satisfied. Everything was going just fine.
Yeah. In fact, you know that Mr. Bargain ended up representing both the seller of that home and you and your husband in the purchase of it, right?
Right.
And am I correct that he actually offered you guys some money if you would use him?
I don't remember that.
Well, let me show you. I see right here on the HUD-1 settlement statement that out of the generosity of his pocket, having represented both parties in the transaction, he agreed to pay $3,000 of closing costs on your behalf. Do you remember him doing that?
Oh, that.
Yeah, that.
I didn't realize, well, I didn't really understand that was coming directly from him.
Yeah, well, it did because he got to represent you without the involvement of my client.
I let my husband handle all the business side.
Do you have any questions you'd have of this witness, or shall we move on, Mr. Gallagher?
Ms. Relo, first of all, welcome to South Carolina.
Thank you.
Yes,
We love
you will
it
love
here.
South Carolina. It's a wonderful
Yeah.
state, and the homes are gorgeous and they're beautiful.
The home we bought is just
Oh,
wonderful.
I know, it's
love it.
exquisite. I know it's gorgeous.
I had to threaten to divorce him to get him to agree to the house.
Now we know who owns the purse strings.
Oh,
Cheers.
yeah, well, there's always a way.
Well, Ms. Relo, let me just ask you something. You signed an agreement, right? You signed an agreement.
Well, I knew we signed something.
You signed
I
something.
wasn't sure
You signed
what
something.
it was.
You signed
Yeah.
something. And by the way, did the agent explain to you line by line by line what you were signing?
Well, you know what? All I was really interested in at the time was thinking about what I wanted to look at.
Okay.
I wasn't really paying a whole lot of attention.
All right, yeah. And then basically, bottom line, you saw some houses.
We did.
Yeah,
We did.
yeah. And then you saw a house that you really liked, right?
Oh,
at
I
that
fell
time,
in
at that
love
time.
with it, yes.
But you weren't able to make a decision.
Well, I did.
Okay,
But my husband didn't want to put that
Oh,
much
so y'all
money
were not
into
ready,
it.
willing to write an offer right
No,
then?
he was being cheap.
Okay, so you were not ready, willing, and able at that time when you saw the property with Sally.
I was willing, he was not.
Okay. Then y'all go home, right?
Yeah, we
to
went
think and
back.
pray,
And argue.
argue. By the way, what about Sally calling you? Why did you not call her back?
We just didn't know what we were going to do at the time. He just was being stubborn.
Okay. And by the way, Ms. Relo, do you think in America you have the freedom to buy from any agent you wish to?
I would hope so.
And also, Ms. Relo, just FYI, in your opinion, who provided the level of professional service was the reason for you to buy the property?
I I think Barney, because he helped us to actually get it.
Oh, Barney helped you actually what?
Get the
it.
house,
So you
yeah.
feel that Barney's level of service basically allowed you to be ready, willing, and able to buy the property.
He did a super job. Everything went smoothly.
He handled the transaction,
Yes.
the repairs,
Yeah,
the
everything.
termite,
Everything.
the well and the septic, the survey, the lawyer.
Right.
He handled all the details for you.
He sure did, and did a really good job.
Wow. And you agree Barney did a lot of work?
Yeah, he sure did.
He did a lot of work.
And he made it so easy and so
Did
smooth.
he? It was
Yeah.
so
It was
easy.
super. Yeah.
And by the way, I just want to thank you for your testimony. We
Certainly.
appreciate you trying to help us resolve the issue. And welcome to South Carolina.
Thank
Yes.
Give her a round of applause, for God's sakes.
I'd like to call Barney Bargan to the witness stand, please. Barney, come on down. Barney, we appreciate you coming this morning and discussing this with us, Barney. And let me give you the microphone so they can hear you real good. And by the way, Barney, just first of all, if you will, what is your name?
Barney Bargan.
And Barney, how long have you been in real estate?
27 years.
Wow, 27 years. You are an experienced veteran agent. Congratulations.
Thanks. I have multiple licenses. I've been doing this a long time.
Okay, very experienced, okay.
Yeah.
And number 3, have you been successful in real estate?
Very.
What kind of designations do you have, Barney?
Well, it's not so much designations as different license. I'm a licensed broker in charge.
Oh, you're a broker in charge?
I'm a state certified residential appraiser.
Oh, state certified residential appraiser.
I'm a licensed auctioneer.
Licensed auctioneer.
I'm a consumer certified real estate consultant.
Oh, really? Wow.
I handle the disposition of assets for the Chapter 7 bankruptcy court system.
Wow.
And I'm a court-appointed receiver.
Wow. So you're very familiar with laws.
Quite a bit.
Rules.
Yeah, I don't understand what I'm doing.
Regulations.
I don't understand what I'm doing here. I don't get this.
And by the way, real quick, you can have all the designations, but you're not a top producer. Are you a top producer?
I'm a one-man company, so I'm the #1 producer in my company for
That's
27
the way
years.
you like it. Yeah, all by yourself, top
#1
producer.
agent in my company.
And by the way, Barney, when you're in real estate, do you like to list houses or do you like to sell houses or do both? What's your preference?
Just list.
You like to list.
I love to list.
And that's the philosophy of real estate. To list is to last.
List
and
to
you
last,
definitely have listed and lasted 27 years.
Thousands of houses.
Let me ask you, if you will, another question too is, do you market your homes by open houses a lot?
All the time. It's the best way to sell real estate, sitting at an open house.
Sitting in an open house.
Love it. Love
like
it.
on Saturdays and Sundays or just Sundays?
Yeah, I used to like football, but no more. I'd rather be at an open house.
Okay.
Rather be sitting there.
And by the way, you're providing that as a service to your seller.
That's correct.
And you're providing that as a service to the consumer.
That's right.
And by the way, Barney, do you have people come by your open house that are just prospects?
Looky-loos?
Yeah.
Oh, we have looky-loos all the time.
Oh, tell us about that process.
They are out there and they're sitting around the house and they've been to church and they've had their fried chicken and they go, "What you want to do?" And the other one says, "I don't know what you want to do." And the other one says, "Well, let's go look at the houses."
Yeah, and they come into your open house?
Yeah, they're not looking to buy a house. They're just looking at houses.
Well, how do you treat them? What kind of customer service level do you give the prospect when they come in?
They all get the same treatment because you never know. They might be in the market for real estate or your services one day.
Wow. Barney, do you have some come to your open house that say, "I want to think about it and I'll let you know"?
Most of them, yeah.
Do you have buyers that say, "We want to bring our parents back to see the house"?
Oh, a lot, yeah.
Do you have, they need to talk to a lender about financing?
Yeah, I'd get that, but I try and advise them to get that pre-qual letter, that pre-qualification, before they really start looking.
So
I try and help.
You're in the business for a smooth transaction.
I'm a giver.
Help everybody.
I'm a giver.
Help the seller.
Yes,
help
sir.
the buyer. Let's get
Yes,
the deal
sir.
closed.
I'm a giver.
And by the way, Barney, number 4, when did you first meet Mr. and Mrs. Relo? Was that at an open house?
Oh, I love them. I made a ton on that one.
Wow.
They came.
And by the way, at the open house, let me ask you,
Yes.
they came to your open house?
Yes, they did.
You shook their hands?
They were by themselves. They didn't have Sally, what's her name, over there with them.
Oh, there was no agent with them?
Oh, no, they didn't have an agent, no.
All right, let me ask you a very important question, Barney.
Okay.
Now, be honest, because you're under oath.
I'm always honest.
Okay, thank you. Did you ask them at that time if they were working with another real estate agent?
You know, I'm very glad you asked me that question.
Okay, tell us what happened.
I'd like to give you this notarized document showing where they signed a list of questions that I asked them. And you'll see that the second question on there is whether or not they're represented by an agent. And they signed that. My wife's a notary public, and she came by to bring me some cookies. So she happened to notarize that while she was there. So I've got a notarized statement from them that they don't have an agent.
Now, who created this questionnaire?
Oh, I do it for everybody that I meet because this is a big problem in the real estate world. You know, procuring cars. It's a big problem. A lot of people don't understand.
So they fill this form out?
Yeah, they filled that out.
And how did they answer the question? Are they working with another agent? They answered?
No.
Mr. Elder, I'd like to enter this into evidence,
Yeah, I'll look at
if
the
you will.
form he fraudulently put together.
Okay, absolutely. Let's enter that. Also, by the way, what did they tell you when they were filling this form out? What did they say to you?
That they really liked the house.
Okay.
That they were very interested in it. And they wanted to talk to me about how the process was. And I started to explain to them how representation works. And that I already had a relationship with the seller.
Okay.
Because I was the listing broker on the house. But that if they did not have an agent relationship with someone already, that I would be very glad to assist them and hold their hand through the process and help them acquire this home.
Did you follow South Carolina law that you were a dual agent?
Oh, we went through all the documents.
Did you talk to them about dual agency?
Oh, yes.
Did you tell them that you were treating both buyer and seller equal?
Yes.
Fair?
Yes.
Impartial?
Completely.
The same?
I swear.
Okay. Also, do you believe they understood what you were saying?
They said they did. The last question in that notarized document I gave you was that we understand everything in this document.
By the way, did they agree to sign an offer with you?
They did.
And also, the sign-in sheets. Do you have sign-in sheets at your listings for
Oh,
agents
that's one of the most.
in?
That's one of the most important things.
The sign-in sheet for an agent to sign in that they showed your property.
2 reasons. One is procuring calls. You want to protect yourself. And the other is I like to follow up with the agents that brought someone to the house so I can get the positive and the negative feedback. So I am very, very strong on having the list of the people who they brought in.
May I ask you, did Sally's name appear on the sign-in sheet?
No, nowhere.
Nowhere on the sign-in sheet was Sally's name.
Never.
There was no indication that Sally had shown the property from the sign-in sheet.
Never heard anything about it, never heard anything from her, never said she showed it and wanted to talk with me further about it, that it was out of their price range. Would my seller consider a reduced price? Nothing.
Let me ask you this question. Did they tell you they had a written buyer agency agreement with another firm or agent? Did they tell you that?
No.
What did they tell you, Barney?
That they did not have any agreement with any other agent.
Is what they told you.
That's what they told me when I asked them.
By the way, did they ever tell you about Sally's name?
No.
Did they ever give you any reason that basically Sally had shown the property?
Never mentioned her.
By the way, was Sally involved in writing the offer?
I hadn't talked to her or heard anything about this until I got this jazz in the mail, man.
All right, let me ask you this. Did Sally help with the negotiation of the offer?
She negotiated with her attorney to come and file a complaint against one of her fellow realtors, but she didn't ask me nothing about it.
Did Sally help with the home inspection process?
No, she ain't been
Did
to
she
nothing.
help with negotiations of repairs?
She didn't help nothing.
Did she help with the termite report?
She didn't help anything
Did
at
she
all.
help find a lender in financing?
She didn't even help me take my sign out of the yard when it was all over.
By the way, was she involved in the closing?
No, not at all.
Did she
wasn't.
do anything to basically help you make this sale?
No, she just whined about it afterwards.
Now, basically, Barney, I need to ask you this question. You gave the buyers $3,000 of your commission as a credit to their closing costs. How much money did you give them?
I gave them $3,000. I felt like it was something that was necessary because Mr. Relo asked me when I talked to him and explained to him about the relationship and the fact that I was already the listing agent. He turned to me and said, "Does this mean you're going to get all of the commission?" And I said, "Well, yes, that is exactly what it means." He said, "Would you be willing to negotiate any of that commission?" And I felt a little intimidated by him because he's in a profession that I respect. I think it's the finest profession in the world. He's a lawyer.
Barney, let me ask this question. Bottom line is you gave the buyers $3,000 credit on the HUD-1 settlement statement.
Yep.
Did the lender pre-approve that money being given? Did the lender approve the money?
Absolutely.
Did the money appear on the HUD-1 settlement statement?
Just like it's supposed to.
Did all parties sign off on the settlement statement?
They certainly did.
Did the sellers acknowledge the settlement statement was signed?
Everybody signed the settlement statement. We had a great closing, especially when they slid that check across the table to me.
And by the way, do you always do this for all your buyers?
Every time.
And last question, and I'll let you talk to Mr. Elder. Why do you think Sally thinks she is entitled to commission? Why?
Because she got them to sign the agreement that we all think creates a situation where we can count on the public doing what they say they're going to do. But she found out that that's not always the case.
Barney, do you believe you laid the foundation for them to be able to make a decision to begin negotiations?
I did.
Barney, do you, in your opinion, feel you brought the buyer ready, willing, and able?
I did.
Mr. Elder, your witness.
Mr. Bergen, I have this statement that I guess your wife notarized about them telling you they weren't represented.
That's correct.
But they did tell you they had looked at houses with another agent.
No.
They told you they had worked with somebody in the past.
Never mentioned that.
Okay. No further questions. Call your next witness, Mr. Gallagher.
He didn't offer me a Kleenex a single time.
Okay. We will teach that in law school next time. Thank you, Barney. We appreciate you. By the way, would you like to critique Barney's?
Let's do Steve, and then we'll do that. We got watch time.
Steve, come on down, if you will. Mr. Steve Relo, come on down, Mr. Relo. We appreciate your time today and helping us resolve this issue, Mr. Relo. Welcome to South Carolina. Hey, how you doing? Hey, yeah, like you like me. Yeah, good. And by the way, Mr. Relo, we do appreciate your time today to come talk to this professional standards panel. And if you will...
I ain't got nothing better to do than come in here and listen to bickering between two real estate agents.
Okay, what's your name? What is your full name?
My name's Steve Relo.
And by the way, what do you do professionally?
I'm a stockbroker.
Are you retired or currently a stockbroker?
Yes.
And how long have you been a stockbroker?
27 years.
So you've worked with
Together,
the public for years?
I'm sorry?
You've worked with the public for years?
Oh, yeah, every
You've
day.
handled their money?
Every
Their
day.
stocks, bonds, mutual funds,
whole works.
investments, their life savings?
Very successfully.
Safeguard their what? Preserve their earnings, fiduciary level of trust. By the way, were you successful being a stockbroker?
I'm sorry?
Were you successful at being a stockbroker?
Oh, absolutely.
And why do you think you were successful?
Because I told people not to buy more than they could afford, which is what I told that lousy real estate agent we had.
Okay. And by the way, do you remember signing a written buyer agreement with Sally Service?
I do.
You remember signing the agreement?
I remember signing it.
Do you understand what the agreement
She
said?
specifically said she could not show us properties without us signing it. And
Oh.
naturally, we wanted to look at properties.
She would not show you any houses unless you signed a written buyer agreement?
That's what she told us.
So you were kind of forced to sign the agreement?
Well, we had no choice if we
'Cause you
wanted to see houses. We thought that's the way it worked down here.
Oh, that's the way it works. You got to sign a buyer agreement in writing before you see a
properties.
house.
Absolutely.
Okay. And by the way, tell us, what did Sally Service do for you?
She got real pushy about overselling us.
I'm sorry, she got
We
real
told her,
pushy.
I told her we wanted a $500,000 house, and she talked my wife into this $1 million house, you know, and she got real pushy, and I just got tired of her.
And by the way, what did Sally do for you? What level of service did Sally provide you and your wife?
She almost cost us a divorce.
By the way, did Sally say you could terminate the written agreement at any time?
Absolutely.
She did? Did you terminate?
She went over the entire agreement with us. I said, well, what are you charging us for this service? She said, I'm not charging you anything. I said, well, what the heck, you know.
Now, wait a minute. What did you ask Sally again?
What she was charging us for this.
And what did Sally say?
She said nothing. She'd get her commission from somebody else.
Okay. By the way, who showed you this $1.2 million home first?
Who showed it first? Sally did.
And why did you not buy through Sally at that time?
Because we weren't interested in a $1.2 million house.
Did you tell her that?
Absolutely.
Did she understand that?
Apparently not.
Okay. All right. Why did you not respond to any of Sally's emails? Sally says she's called y'all, she's emailed you, and you didn't communicate back.
After showing us every doggone property in town and confusing us totally, she badgered us with phone calls and emails. We told her when we left that we weren't interested in making a decision right now. We told her when we left that we would contact her. And all she did was call and call and call and leave emails, to the point that I just got fed up.
By the way, when you
Sir?
returned to the beautiful city in South Carolina, did you call her?
Yes, I did. No, before we came to South Carolina, I called her back.
On the second trip?
On the second trip.
You tried to call her?
I tried to call her office to talk to her about this agreement and tell her that I was not happy with her and that we were going to come back and we were going to look at some properties on our own.
And what happened?
I was told by a receptionist that Sally was not available.
Now, stop right there. You were told by who?
A receptionist.
Where?
At the office.
What?
That she was not available and could not be reached.
Could not
so
be
I
reached.
left a message that I wanted to discuss with her this agreement and our situation, and never got a return phone call from Sally.
Did Sally return the phone call?
I'm sorry?
Did Sally call you back? Did Sally call you back?
No, Sally
Did
did
Sally
not call back.
email you?
No,
Was
had
there
no
any
contact with her after I left that message at the office.
Wow.
No contact.
And by the way, just that question came up is a lot of times people ask, did Sally help you write the offer?
Absolutely not.
By the way, another question comes up, a lot of people ask this question is, did she help you with your financing?
Absolutely not.
Did she help you with the home inspections?
I've already told you, we didn't even talk to her after we left the first time.
And by the way,
she helped us with nothing.
Another question is,
except a bunch of argument between my wife and I.
By the way, tell us about Barney Bargain.
Oh, Barney's a great guy.
All right, what level of professional services did Barney provide?
Oh, it was excellent. I mean, he helped us. He did everything for us. He was totally honest and upfront. Just love Barney. Recommend him. Great guy.
By the way, did Barney discuss with you that if he represented you and the sellers, he'd be a dual agent?
Absolutely.
Did he explain to you clearly and concisely that he was representing both you and the seller equal, fair?
In
impartial?
fact, I asked him several questions about if advice came up, if some things came up, and we wanted to know some things. He told us that there were certain things we'd have to decide on our own, that he just wouldn't be able to tell us.
Being in the stock brokerage business for 27 years, you felt comfortable with Barney.
Oh, absolutely.
You felt comfortable with his business style.
Absolutely.
You felt comfortable with his demeanor.
Yeah, absolutely.
There was a fiduciary level of trust.
Yes, there was.
You trusted Barney.
Absolutely.
And your wife
100%.
trusted Barney. Now the question is this.
My wife don't even trust me.
Okay, I hear what you're saying. Now let's talk about the $3,000. How did the $3,000 come up in discussion?
A friend of mine said that he had bought a new construction recently, and the developer, the builder, paid some of the closing costs, and I asked Barney if he could do the same thing.
Okay. You asked Barney if he could pay some of your closing costs?
Sure, yeah.
And he said what?
And he said, certainly. You know, he wasn't real happy about it, but, you know, I kind of forced the issue a little bit.
And your lender approved it?
Absolutely.
And it was on the HUD-1 settlement statement?
Absolutely.
Full disclosure, all buyer and seller?
Full disclosure all the way around.
Signed off by all parties?
Yeah, absolutely.
And by the way, just FYI, why do you feel Sally thinks she's due a commission?
I have no idea. She didn't do anything. I know. I have no idea. Just because somebody shows me something doesn't mean that I'm going to pay them anything or that they should get paid.
And by the way, the last question is, in your opinion, who deserves the commission?
Barney.
Mr. Elder, your
And he
witness,
got it.
please.
Mr. Relo, I'm a little confused. You're a stockbroker, right?
That's correct.
You must deal with contracts and written agreements every single day.
I do.
I take it some of them are fairly complex.
Absolutely.
So you knew you had signed a written buyer representation agreement
That had
with
no
Ms. Service.
consideration. Yes, I understood that as
I
a
see.
stockbroker.
You had questions about the agreement.
I do.
Why didn't you just send her back an email or return one of the single phone calls saying, I have a question about the agreement or I don't want to be bound by the agreement? You didn't do that, did you?
Would you repeat the question?
Yeah, in fact, I'll make it real clear for you, Mr. Relo.
Well, you have to understand that I am deaf and I cannot understand you when you have your head turned.
You...
Sir?
Did you pick this witness? You never told Ms. Service that you wanted to cancel the agreement, correct?
Absolutely.
You never called her or returned a single one of her emails and said, we don't want to be bound by the agreement, did you?
I called and left a message for her to call me, which she never did.
I'm curious about that. Who did you speak to at her office?
I spoke to a receptionist.
What was the name of that person?
Joan Baez.
See? Did you keep records of that phone call?
Pardon?
Did you keep records of that phone call?
I did, in fact.
How many times did you try and call her office?
Once. I thought that would be enough.
I see. You tried to call her one time.
Yes.
You weren't able to get in touch with her. And
I
you
was
simply
not able to get in touch with her.
And you simply thought that'd be enough, so you gave up.
Absolutely.
Wow. Interesting position, Mr. Relo. I have nothing further.
I was,
Yes, sir?
never mind. Okay.
No, please.
I was told at the initial 3-hour conference that I was hiring not only Sally, but her firm, the other agents, and this and that, since the contract was with the firm. At no time did the receptionist or anybody in my one phone call offer to allow me to speak to anyone else. Just that Sally was gone, Sally could not be located, and there was no way to contact her. I thought that one phone call would be sufficient based on what I was told.
You weren't really happy about the fact that your wife decided she wanted the $1.2 million house.
Absolutely correct.
I thought so. Thanks, Mr. Relo. I have no further questions, Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you.
Give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. You guys are great. In fact, can I just say this? I think they all get awards. What do you guys think? By the way, just so you realize how sincere we are about that, do you know when they found out they were going to do this up here in front of you? This morning. So that was the extent of their preparation. So another round of applause. Thank all of you guys. You have some questions. What would you like to know?
I would like to ask Rela what he was thinking when Barney was going over the buyer's agency agreement, and it says on there, have you signed this agreement with anybody else?
Repeat the question one more time for the mic.
If, when Steve Rela was filling out the buyer's agency agreement with Barney, what did he put down or say when it asked him if he had ever signed a buyer's agency agreement with anybody else?
Mm-hmm.
You'll have to ask my wife that.
What issues? Go ahead.
I told him that we had signed several agreements with several different people on several different occasions for different things, and I could not remember all of them. That we did have an agreement with someone else, but it had long expired.
Interesting. Yes, sir.
Got a microphone. Here we go.
Since Sally had showed the home and Barney was really good at follow-up, did he never call Sally for feedback, find out more about her clients? You know, in this price range, I would figure you would have given her a call and you would have had a conversation and known that she had showed it and who she showed it to.
That's a great question. Can we go to the actual reference? Because the reference, and you guys have a copy if you want to turn to it. You don't have to, but standard of practice 16-9 is this, well, affirmative duty obligation. Jim, right? That Jim was talking about. It says realtors prior to entering into a representation agreement have an affirmative obligation to make reasonable efforts to determine whether the prospect is subject to a current valid exclusive agreement to provide the same type of real estate service. That's that affirmative duty you talked about. The obligation of Barney to try to figure out whether they were under an agreement with Sally. I'm curious as to what you think. Do you think he met this obligation? Yes.
I think Mr. Bargain should have asked the reloads if they've actually seen the property in the past.
Okay.
That would have led into...
With
yes.
who and when and where and... Okay. Any other thoughts on this? Yeah.
If I understood the sequence of events correctly...
Let me give you a microphone. I think he's here in the back.
If I understood the sequence of events correctly, he did ask, and they said that the agreement had expired, correct?
Or they said... Kind of played loose with a little facts. Let me give you the facts this way.
Sure.
He asks, are you currently represented by anyone else? And they say, no, not at this point. We looked at some houses with somebody in the past, but no, we're not represented at the moment. Is that fulfill his duty, Kurt?
Well, I heard you mention abandonment. There's also such a thing as estrangement. And if they were not satisfied, why did they have to continue with this thing if she said they could terminate it any time they wanted to?
There are two issues that haven't been mentioned. Issues that have not been mentioned. One was that, and he brought it up in his questioning, was that she told us that the agreement could be canceled at any time. So by that, we could have assumed that when we were not wanting to deal with her anymore, that it was canceled. The senior moment just clicked in. It'll come back later.
Back row.
He got one there. No, hey, 1 second.
What constitutes
canceling the agreement? The phone call, or according to the buyer's agency agreement, it has to be in writing?
Be in writing.
Another question?
Needs to be in writing. Could have been an email, could have been a letter, but need to be in writing to cancel.
I'm not sure Sally's issue isn't with the buyers.
Hang on to that thought. Okay. Hang on to that thought. You had a comment.
Yeah, I'm wondering how they got into the house when Sally showed them the house. Was there a lockbox? And if there was a lockbox, Barney should have known.
Should have been a record on it.
Who showed the house, the date that it was shown, and should have called.
I would tell you this, and some of you that went through ABR may have heard, because this was the actual line and way it's taught out of ABR. Every single case, every single example, every single explanation that I can find out of NAR, not to say that some local professional standards or grievance committees haven't handled it a little differently, but from NAR's formal perspective, this standard of practice requires him only to do what? Ask the question. I tend to kind of be on the side of some of you. I think you should have said, well, have you seen this house before? Well, you said you were working with somebody. Who was that? Let me call her and see if she has a written agreement with you. I think those are all things we probably would like to see. NAR's just never mandated it as part of his affirmative duty. Affirmative duty is to ask the question and rely on what they tell him. Yes?
The listing agent was holding an open house, which was common practice for him. And I would think that one of the questions that a listing agent holding an open house would always ask is, why did you come to the open house? Have you seen the property before? There would have to be some qualification answers. Now, that doesn't really lead into the standard of practice, but it might have, had those qualifying questions been answered, led to a more direct answer to who they looked at the property with.
Comment, Jim?
I think that we continue to go around the ethical issues and what Barney did or did not do, but the issue before us is an arbitration question. Arbitration direction tells us that there are people who even break the law or violate ethical standards can still win the procuring cause argument. I do think that one last thing, though, is our buyer made a statement under oath that said that he was upset with Sally because she talked my wife into buying this house. Now, a lot of people blew past that statement. But if the issue at hand is indeed procurement, I'm not saying all or partial or whatever, but I think even by the testimonies of the clients, she had a part in the procurement. And I don't think if we're not careful, we get sidetracked with the ethical issues, which are not before us. I think there is, and if I'm looking at this is an arbitration case, the manual is very specific when it says don't get distracted with ethics and legal issues on an arbitration. It's a what? Exposure to closure and who played what part. And I think that really in his attempt to downgrade Miss Sally, I think he validated the fact that she was very instrumental in them buying that house.
I remembered the other issue. Thank you. One of the things that no one's really addressed here is the fact that Sally did try numerous times to contact us right after we returned, but then there was 4 months in there and she quit trying to get in touch with us, and therefore I question, does that come into play here?
Great point. Hang on to that. Let's do one more question over here, and then we're going to drive this to a closure so we can take our last break.
I have a twofold question. Are Barney and Sally both realtors?
Yes.
Both are realtors.
Both are realtors. Do we have any idea what the MLS rules that they were following? as payment, as far as co-op, variable commission, any of that?
Let's presume there was simply an offer of a co-op fee.
One more question. I saw one more hand.
One more? One more, and then we'll do
Or you're
closure
going
here
time
on
out.
this.
Okay, good, buddy.
Okay, so let me introduce you, if you have not run across it, to what I think, since I understand from our conversations earlier, Byron, your state's not much different from mine. 90% or so of your arbitrations have to do with procuring costs. It's the biggest, most common issue you're all likely to run into. And if you have not found this, I offer it to you on page 35. It is not mine. This is NAR's official procuring cause worksheet. And was it up here? This is probably yours. And so it asks a number of questions about the facts in connection with the claim for compensation. I would encourage you to take a look at this in light of all that we did today. We're not going to work through this line by line or section by section. I think the questions are pretty straightforward. You're certainly right that if you look over under sections, 5A, 5B, 5C, that has to do with initial introduction to property. But one of the sections that they really put an awful lot of interest in is this whole issue of abandonment, where they came back and they tried to contact her office and they couldn't get a hold of her. And then in regard to the purchase of this particular property, excuse me, who really was most instrumental in getting this transaction closed? What do you think? Barney. I would encourage you to go through the checklist, but let's just do it at this point by a show of hands. How many of you, given what you've now heard, think that she was probably not the procuring cause in this real estate transaction? And I think most of the professional standards committees, if you work through this worksheet, would agree with that same assessment. Because she wasn't involved in the contract, she had an issue of abandonment. Now, let's take all of that and look at it from a whole different perspective. And the different perspective I want you to look at is this. What if, let's put aside the abandonment issue, the single sole issue of them trying to contact her office. And let me ask you to rethink this whole arbitration. If it had been an arbitration or a lawsuit, not against Barney, but an arbitration or a lawsuit against Mr. Relo here for breaching his buyer-broker agreement, how many of you think that agreement should have been honored for the buyers? Yeah. And what you have just seen play out here is also the most common struggle and hurdle that professional standards and grievance committees face on these. Look, we know this. We're all in a room of realtors. It's my client who was obligated on the buyer-broker agreement, who lied to the other agent about whether or not they were represented. Except most real estate agents don't want to file the claim against their client. I'd rather file it for the co-op fee against the other agent. So what should have been an arbitration about enforcement of the buyer-broker agreement against the clients tries to get forced into an arbitration claiming part of the co-op fee as a procuring cause against the other agent. Wrong claim against the wrong people. So let's play this out a minute. If Sally had filed her claim against the Relos on the simple question of did she have a valid enforceable buyer-broker agreement that they breached, how many of you say yay? And when the judge orders you out of your own pocket to cough up, well, on a $1.2 million purchase, several $1,000s, and hand it over to her, now who are they not so happy with? Barney. And might they be the ones who, under this standard of practice, then turn around, having been obligated to pay 2 commissions, and be in much better position as clients to say, hey, why didn't you ask us what the name of the person was? Why didn't you ask us who first showed us the house? Why didn't you tell us, did you sign a written agreement? I need to see a copy of it to make sure it's still not in force. Because they would be better able to make that argument as clients, and they may have a great claim against him. But you see, we try to shortcut it by going directly after the other agent. Does that all make sense? Can you see that playing out?
Wouldn't mediation have been better?
And then it would have went through mediation to try and resolve it. Yes, absolutely. And hence, well, not quite full circle because we're not to 1 o'clock yet, but partially full circle, because here we are back saying that when we try to play out these dramas outside of the professional standards framework within our association, if you think this gets convoluted and lost in an arbitration, oh, you should see it in a courtroom. What do you think this looks like as a court trial? My God, they'll never figure the issues. That'd be so obfuscated by the time you get partway through, nobody will know what. Same thing can happen in arbitration. And when I say full circle, we're right back to what Bill was talking about. How much better off is everybody in this transaction by sitting down and working this out? Make sense? And one other point about Bill's importance on mediation. Do you remember what you said? And we did not script this. Do you remember what you first said when Bill commented about you being there today, and you said something about you couldn't think of I couldn't think of anything better to do with my time than to come down here and listen to a couple of realtors bicker over their fees. Win, lose, or draw between us. Folks, just by going through the process, which we could have resolved in mediation, how much damage was done to that industry right here? When's the next time they will use a real estate professional? And neither will any friend, family member, or someone who stands next to them for more than 20 minutes in a grocery store line. And with that, court adjourned.